Moments of inspiration mixed with time to network, IBJ Media Events has you covered. From industry deep dives to awards celebrating Indiana's top leaders, see what's coming up and reserve your seat at ibj.com/RSVP.
This is the IBJ podcast for the week of Monday, March the 9th, 2026, brought to you by Taft. I'm your host, Mason King. Welcome back to the podcast, everybody. Jim Dalton grew up in Indianapolis in a devout, church-going family. He entered college thinking he would become a preacher, but another career path made itself clear, one in which he'd be able to serve and guide children to happier and healthier lives. He didn't know at the time that he eventually would be able to have an impact on thousands of people every day. Today, he is just the third president and CEO of Indianapolis-based Damar Services, a 59-year-old nonprofit that provides essential support for adults and children with intellectual and developmental disabilities. He joined Damar as Chief Operating Officer in 2002 and became CEO in 2013. Over that 24-year period, the organization's annual budget has grown from about $4 million to more than $140 million, and its employee count has grown from 67 to about 1,400, directly serving about 1,800 clients per day. It recently expanded from central Indiana to East Chicago and just launched operations in Richmond. Dalton is our guest this week to talk about his evolution from child psychologist to chief executive of one of central Indiana's largest nonprofits. He also explains the aggressive strategy behind Damar's expansion, which in a sense boils down to this: if there are still people who need our services, we should expand to meet them. Here's our conversation. It's my pleasure to welcome to the podcast Jim Dalton, President and CEO of Damar Services. Thanks for making time to come downtown to the studio.
No, Mason, thank you. It's a great opportunity to meet you and to be here.
As we were talking just before I hit record, this is one of the more daunting podcasts I've had to prepare for, since Damar Services does so much.
Yeah.
It is difficult to hold it all in my head.
Yeah.
I don't know if you have the same problem. So we're going to hop around a little bit.
Yeah, sure.
So I invite you to come with me in this scenario. Let's say that we are two nonprofit executives. We meet at a conference in Denver.
Okay.
It could be anywhere, but it's
Gotcha.
Denver. We're sitting at the same table. We're doing some networking. How do you concisely describe what Damar does?
Well, that's difficult to do. I've tried to have a good elevator speech for Damar, and 20 years ago it was a lot easier. But it's difficult now because there's a lot of stories and a lot of growth, and so it is difficult just to explain Damar in a few sentences. It really is. So do you want me to give it a try?
Yeah, give it a shot.
Sure.
Oh, sure.
Damar is one. It's just a wonderful organization. I'm so proud of Damar and all that it has done, not only for the thousands of clients that we serve every day, but for our staff members and of course for me personally, it's just been a wonderful part of my life for the last 24 years. So I could not be more proud and humble about its impact on the world and of course on me. So I appreciate the opportunity. Damar is a large human service organization that is headquarters here in Indianapolis, but does services all across the state. Our specialty, or what we focus on, is assisting individuals that are challenged with developmental disabilities, intellectual disabilities, and autism. So we focus our services across the lifespan. We serve as young as a 2-year-old child all the way up to geriatric age, and the different issues that may develop as part of the aging process for folks with developmental disabilities. To do that, we have a lot of services that we provide, and I'll go over a few of them. If you take the most intensive services that we provide, if you think like about an inpatient children's psychiatric hospital, that's a flavor of one of the things that we do, a really intensive thing that we do. We provide residential treatment for children that cannot live at home because of disruptive behaviors or because of dangerous behaviors. Our job is to help them stabilize and then get back home with their families. Surrounding those things, we have a foster care program. We have outpatient programs. We have many clinics, ABA services. We have a public school. We have a private school. We have our own health care services. So we do primary health. We do all kinds of services for adults. And we have a campus here in central Indiana of about 87 acres where that's a hub of what we do. We have a campus in East Chicago, Indiana of about 5 acres where we do a lot of the things I'm talking to you about. And then we just acquired about a year ago a large campus, about 93 acres in Richmond, Indiana. And we are hot and heavy in developing our programs and services there. So we are, what I say in a nutshell is we are a large, essential human services organization that is, is the opportunity to do life-changing work. So we're super proud of it.
Yeah, right. Oh, great job.
Well, I know. So I always go on too long. Damar is one of my major passions, so I could talk about it forever.
No, that's good. Okay, now we're going to hop.
Sure.
Okay. Where did you grow up?
So I grew up here in Indianapolis. I was born and bred here in Indianapolis. I was a product of Indianapolis public schools before my parents moved to Warren Township when I entered the 7th grade. And so I grew up there in some of my formidable years there in Warren Township, graduated from Warren Central High School. So right here in Indianapolis.
Wow.
I left and went, of course, to graduate school at 2 different cities, but came back and so.
Where did you go to IPS?
So I went to elementary school, IPS number 98 there on Dewberry Road, the east side. Right there. Lots of good memories there. Growing up, quite young at that time, but right there on the east side.
What did your folks do?
So, I have he's my father, but he's not my biological father. My biological father died just a few months before I was born. So he died of heart failure. He had pneumonia in the hospital when he was 26 years old. And my mom then had my older sister, April, who's a couple years older than me, and then was a widower there and had me. So after a few years, when I was about 5 or 6, she married who I call my father, the only father I've ever known. And he was he started out in the bank, but his major was insurance. So he was an independent insurance agent for many, many years before he ultimately sold his business many years ago. My dad is 90 years old and doing wonderful. My mother is 84 and not doing as wonderful as he is doing. She's struggling a little bit with her health. But my father's doing great.
Wow.
Yeah.
Outstanding. Well, I'm sorry for the loss of your father, but I guess when you were growing up, you didn't know.
I didn't know. My sister, who was a baby, she had a few experiences with my biological father, but things work out. I could not imagine having a better father than my stepfather, and I can't even believe I call him my stepfather, but technically he is. Yeah. But his first name is Don and his last name is Tomlin, and he's been a great person in my life.
So I understand you went to Anderson University.
Anderson University, I did.
And you were at least, initially you were studying for the ministry?
Yeah. So no one in my family on my father's side or my mother's side had ever gone to college. I was the first person to go to college. I was raised very intensely in the Church of God of Anderson, Indiana. So I was one of those kids that went to church on Sunday mornings, Sunday nights, and Wednesday evenings for Bible studies. I was one of those kids. And really the only thing I knew was to count on my parents about how they would direct me. Of course, they wanted me to be a preacher.
Really?
And, yeah, they sure did.
They wanted you to be a preacher?
They wanted me to be a preacher.
Or did they notice qualities in you that would...
Well, I hope they did. I have an uncle, Steve Nelson, who is an evangelist, and he was a Church of God minister, and my mother's younger brother. And my grandfather was very much involved in the ministry. And I would even say my father was somewhat involved in the ministry. He never had a church, but he was big in the ministry. And that was my life. And so when I was deciding to go to college, my parents wanted me to go to Anderson because that was where you went to become a preacher. And that's what I initially thought that I was going to do. And I was excited about that. There's a big story about that. When you think about becoming a pastor, you get what they call the calling. And I have a story about that. I think it's maybe too long for the podcast, but it is a story where ultimately I was expecting to get the calling, but I did not. And so I did the next best thing I knew to really make my mother and my grandmother, who's very important in my life, my maternal grandmother, I want to make them proud. And so I said, well, what can I do? And I knew that if I majored in psychology, sociology, that I would help people in some way, shape, or form in my future. So that is what I ended up doing. And then, of course, that led me to graduate school and the other things that I did to lead me to the path that I'm here now.
That's fascinating. Right. Because if you had asked, if I'd been in the same situation, I said, well, I'm not going to be a journalist. I want to do something that's going to make my parents proud.
Yeah.
I think my perception at the time would have been I should be a lawyer.
Yeah. Yeah. There you go.
But you felt like, and I guess you got a good sense of it, that they would be very happy with you being a different kind of servant leader.
Yeah. I don't know if they knew that I would end up being being able to end up being, where I am today. But I think when I decided that I was going to be in the helping profession and dedicate my life to that, I think they were proud of me and wanted to facilitate that and help me get there. So, and which they did.
Okay. So you received a bachelor's degree in psychology and sociology?
I did, yes.
From Anderson.
From Anderson University.
In 1988.
Yeah.
And from 89 to 97, you were in a master's program and then a doctorate program.
Yes.
At Spalding University.
Spalding University.
And I'm sorry, I didn't have time to look that up. Where is Spalding?
Spalding's in Louisville, Kentucky. So
okay.
It's right down the road from the University of Louisville.
Yeah.
Spalding with no U. S-P-A-L-D, not no U. Most people spell it with U. But yes, that was a school that I was lucky to get into. I initially, coming out of undergraduate, I was not the greatest student. But when I went to Spalding University, I excelled and really took it seriously and really did a great job there. So Spalding was a great training ground for me. And then from there, I went on to the Ohio State University School of Medicine, where I did all of my pre- and postdoctoral training there, which was a great experience for me there in Columbus, Ohio. Yeah.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah.
So that is a lot of time to invest.
It is.
In a career. What was driving you? What was, I guess what they say is, what was your why? What nugget of that was tugging at you?
Well, I'll tell you two things. First of all, I decided to be a pediatric psychologist because a lot of people say this, but I really felt I really love children. In fact, when I was younger, I said, I'm going to have as many children as I can, as long as I can afford it. That didn't turn out to be exactly correct for me because I had a lot of children and I wouldn't say that I could always have afforded it. But really, I was really drawn to children and then mental health and adjustment. And I was gifted in my early childhood. I had so much love in my life. And I remember seeing friends that struggled and didn't have the kind of support that I had. And so that was a big part of my entry. Now, I'll just be honest with you. Once you get into deciding that you want to go into psychology and be a psychologist, once you go down that road, there's really no looking back. So it is a long road, and halfway through it, you're like, what am I doing? But you really can't go back. You're so invested in it. So I continued in that and really put my mind to it. And it was an expensive road for me. But at times I questioned myself, what are you doing here? But as I look back today, I know that was a path for me, and I'm super glad that I took that route.
Okay. And then what did you do with all of your degrees once you were finished?
Yeah. So, I always say that another place that prepared me for what I wanted to do is my first job was at McDonald's, quality service and cleanliness. I took that was such a great experience for me, McDonald's. I know nobody wants to work at McDonald's these days, and I know why. But when I worked there, man, it taught me a lot. I started working there when I was 15, 16, and then left for college. But back to your question. I graduated. My first job as a professional psychologist was actually a large private practice here in Indianapolis called MMG, Methodist Medical Group. So I was in a group of psychologists where we had managed care contracts, and I would see a lot of children. There'd be weeks that I'd see 37 or 38 little boys with ADHD, and it was tough.
Wow.
But that was a high volume private practice. And during that time, my wife at the time actually saw an ad in the Indianapolis Star, just a small ad that said, hey, we're looking for a leadership position in mental health at a local organization called Lutheran Child and Family Services, but was also connected to Community Health Network, which back then we knew as Gallahue Mental Health Center. I went over there and talked to those people at Lutherwood and met an interesting guy named Sven Schumacher, who's still my friend today. He's from Germany. And I left that private practice and went into kind of a practice, but I had some leadership exposure, and then moved up quickly to be the chief operating officer there at Lutheran Child and Family Services. And I was responsible for the behavioral health at Community Health Network there. That was kind of a hybrid job that they had partnered to do together. So I actually worked there for a few years, got a lot of great experience, both clinically and in leadership. And then soon after, Damar came calling, and that was a big life-changing moment for me. I resisted that for a while, but it's a life-changing moment for me.
Okay. So now we're going to jump back.
Sure.
Back into time. 1967.
Mm-hmm.
What is the origin story of Damar?
I love to tell it. It is, hope you have patience for it. I've told this story maybe 1,000 times.
Yeah.
So early in the 60s, there was a man and woman who were married. Their last name was Farkas, Beverly and Ted Farkas. And they had 2 children, and those 2 children had profound disabilities. The boy and the girl. The boy was a little older than the girl. And they noticed in their early parts of their life that it was too much for them to handle for themselves. So what they needed was help with those 2 disabled children. And back then, we didn't know exactly what autism was, but as you look back, there was probably autism there. They also had some medically complex conditions and intellectual disabilities. So very complicated children. So they wanted help. But they also wanted the strong connection with these 2 children that they loved so very much. So they lived here in central Indiana. They looked around and said, what organization can we find that can help us? But also these 2 children would be an important part of our family forever. And they had a lot of difficulty finding where that would be here in Indianapolis. They did find a few places, but those places which we now call state hospitals, which are much better than they used to be now. State hospitals are a different place now. But back then, they said, sure, we'll take your children and drop them off. And then you can come back on Sunday at 5 o'clock. But you have to be gone by 7 because that's when we give them their medicine, and that's when we would put them to bed. So and that, they weren't satisfied with that at all. So they just weren't satisfied. So they looked around and they couldn't find anything. So they actually moved. They left Indiana and went to the state of Pennsylvania, where they found an organization that would support them and still give them great access and a wonderful living arrangement with their children. But they didn't give up on Indiana. Mm-hmm. They were from here. So they came back and said, we know hundreds of other parents have to be in the same position we are. So what can we do about that? And so a grassroots effort where they got a little land out there where Damar's headquarters are now. They obtained it from the Duesenberg family. That's a local family here. You know about the Duesenberg car, the fancy car that sometimes had a few problems with it. The term, that's a doozy. You ever heard that term? People have heard that. If you have some age on you, you've heard that's a doozy.
I did not know that's where that was from.
That came from that
Oh,
car.
that's cool.
So that family didn't donate the land, but they gave them to that land out there at a very good price. It wasn't very good land, didn't drain very well. But there was a little bit of help from the state. Some really good grassroots leaders came together and said, we are going to establish a place where parents can have their children come, but can still be part of their family. And they were really proud of that, started out very small. And they decided, what are we going to name this place? This place needs a name. And they decided to name it after those two children of Beverly and Ted Farkas that were never served in Indiana, never served at Damar, but they named it after them. His name was David. Her name was Martha. So they put those two names together. And initially it was called Damar Homes. And that is where Damar started, out there in the southwest part of Marion County, near the airport, in a small plot of land that now is 87 total acres out there. We've bought land, been donated land out there, so we have a large plot of land there, and of course expanded our services greatly since that original founding.
It doesn't sound like there was ever a time when it wasn't growing.
Yeah. So as you may know, when I came to Damar in 2002, we had 67 employees, and our budget was just under $4 million. As you may or may not know now, today we have about 1,400 employees, and our budget this year will exceed $140 million. So we have grown. And I'll tell you, we've grown mainly because we've had a great board of directors over the years. Of course, our board of directors has changed over the years, but they've been a board of directors that has committed themselves to this population, this special, great population of people, and said, we need to do what we can to assist them. And quite what we faced is that we've just never been able to serve enough people. Our waiting lists for every service we've ever developed, including today, are just lengthy. And as long as there were waiting lists for our services, our board of directors says, well, as long as it's fiscally responsible and we can manage it, let's try to expand to reduce those waiting lists. And that's still our mission today. Part of what we're trying to do is to make sure everyone that needs services and supports like Damar offers, that we can provide that to them. That is why, the main reason why we've expanded and grown so much. We've got to be smart in our growth, and we've been very blessed at Damar, very blessed that we've been lucky and have great people there to advise us. But we've continued to grow, and we expect to continue to grow in the future.
Okay, let's take a quick break so we can hear from our sponsor. This is the IBJ Podcast.
Taft, today's modern law firm. At Taft, we cultivate a highly respectful, transparent workplace that fosters creativity, teamwork, inclusion, and diversity. We couple our culture with a client-first approach, rewarding lawyers who understand their clients' goals and work to deliver success. Taft, the modern law firm. To learn more, visit taftlaw.com.
Spring is coming, and that means it's time to bring your backyard back to life. At Indie Grills, we design and build custom outdoor living spaces that turn your patio into the best room of the house. From stamped concrete patios to cozy outdoor fireplaces to fully custom outdoor kitchens built for grilling, gathering, and entertaining, we do it all. We handle everything from design to build, and we're known for doing it one way. Built fast, built right, on time, and on budget. So before summer fills up, start now. Visit IndieGrills.com and schedule your outdoor living consultation today. Indie Grills. This is where spring begins.
All right, we're back with this week's episode of the IBJ Podcast in my interview with Jim Dalton about the growth of Damar Services. Well, yeah, this is a good place to transition to today. So according to our research, the IBJ Book of Lists, Damar Services is Central Indiana's 17th largest nonprofit organization. That's in terms of annual revenue.
Yeah.
Now, 17, you're like, 17's good. Doesn't sound super impressive. But here's the context. Damar is right behind Marion University, University of Indianapolis, Gleaners Food Bank, and the Indianapolis Foundation.
Right.
I mean, we have a huge ecosystem of big nonprofits.
Yes, we do. And remember that it also includes our hospitals, which are mainly not nonprofits. Of course, they are billion-dollar industries, and we won't get into that. But as you know, they're in large universities. So, we are larger than a lot of universities, and we're larger than, some of the major small universities that are here. So, yeah.
Yeah. And that's really one of the interesting things. When you look at employment, how many employees do you have right now?
So if you count the about 100 contractors we have, you include everyone, about 1,400 employees. Yes.
So as best as I can determine from our research, that is the most employees in the top 25 nonprofits for a non-hospital example.
Yeah.
I mean, the only ones that have more employees are the mega hospitals, the hospital systems.
Yep. So one of the things that I talk about a lot is we are labor intensive. So our work requires direct intervention with people, and you can't replace that. You have to have direct. So some of the clients that we serve, if you can imagine this, would have 3 full-time adults with 1 child, 24 hours a day, just to manage the severity of their disabling and behavioral conditions. Now, obviously, we fade that away. That's part of what we do is we can start intense and then we fade that away over time and ultimately getting them home back with their parents. But we are labor intensive. We have a lot of employees that need to do that work. I'm always amazed when I sometimes see these large organizations that have a lot of revenue and not very many employees. I'm like, whoa. But then I understand the industries are different, but we have a lot of employees and we need a lot of employees. It's our greatest strength, and sometimes it also is our greatest weakness.
Those names that I just pulled out before, these are pretty well-known names in Indianapolis.
Yes.
Damar, I imagine, isn't as well-known, for example, as universities.
Right.
Or the really big foundations. Does the organization struggle with name recognition at all? Or are you specialized enough so that within your context?
Yeah. So when I first started Damar, I would tell my friends or tell people, and almost everyone would say, "What is Damar?" And one of our goals that we've had over the period of many years is that we want Damar to be better known for a lot of reasons. One, we know if we're better known, we can attract better employees and that we can give better care. We don't think that, one time we thought, well, one day we'll be as name recognition as Riley Children's Hospital. Wouldn't that be great? So we've tried really hard to get the name of Damar out so that our clients or the people that we serve that deserve so much, that they're reflected in a very, very positive way. So when you see and hear of Damar, whether you see us on a billboard or you see us on a commercial or you see us at the Colts Stadium or the Indians, there's really one reason we do. Well, there's two. One, of course, is to reflect the quality of the people that we are so honored and privileged to serve, but also, of course, to attract employees. So we continue to struggle with that some, but not as much as we used to. I would say, I don't want to say the majority of people in the Indianapolis or central Indiana are aware of Damar, but most people go, I've heard of Damar. Tell me again what Damar does. And then they quickly, we're still working on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Given how central the name is to the origin of the organization, I would assume a rebranding strategy would be out of the question.
Well, that's interesting. We've rebranded our mission, and we have looked at colors, and the what you do to kind of get the recognition that you need. And we've changed our tagline right now. Our tagline is "Remarkable People, Remarkable Results." Damar Services, remarkable people, remarkable results, which we're certainly proud of that. But you'll see now that tagline used to follow the Damar symbol. And now you mostly see just the Damar symbol without the remarkable people, remarkable results. That's kind of where we're moving. We have had consultants that have talked to us about maybe rebranding. Some of our not-for-profits local have had rebranding. The Children's Bureau rebranded to
Firefly.
Yeah. And those, so we've resisted that. We think that we have a long way to go, and a lot of the name Damar gives us. So I don't think as long as I'm around, I would support the change in the name. Maybe the next CEO could be challenged with that.
Okay. So early on when I was doing research for the podcast, I saw the story that IBJ ran 2013 when you became the president and CEO.
Yeah.
And by that time, you'd been with the organization about 12 years.
Yes.
You had a very strong sense of the organization already.
Yeah.
In the fourth paragraph of the story, it said that the thing on top of your to-do list was to quadruple Damar's annual, oh my God, I need to double check this.
Fundraising.
Oh,
right?
I was right. It was fundraising.
Oh yeah, it was absolutely our donations are fundraising, which would more recognition, more understanding of what we do, better fundraising. So yeah, that is one of the things that I thought was really important that we needed to do better. So we have done better with that.
Yeah.
You want me to tell you about that, or were you going to ask me another?
Yeah. Well, here's my question.
Yeah.
So, but let's put a pin on it. So at the time, the revenue, Damar's annual revenue, was $43.5 million.
Yes.
I know by 2024 it was 125-ish million. Yeah. Can you say give us a ballpark for either last year or this year?
So this year our budget will exceed 140 million.
Okay. So I needed to be careful about conflating fundraising with revenue.
Yes.
But you are well on your way to quadrupling revenue in the space of 13 years?
Yes.
Which is kind of insane.
It's been great, overwhelming at times, but great.
When you told everybody in 2013, I want to quadruple fundraising, were they like, you go get them, partner?
Well, I didn't hesitate to say that because we weren't raising very much money.
Oh, okay.
We really weren't. For an organization that was growing. And I think there's reasons for that. And you mentioned them. One, Damar's name recognition wasn't as strong as it is now. The other thing that's important about Damar's fundraising is, if you think about other organizations, is we don't have strong alumni. We have a lot of alumni. One of the greatest people you ever meet are our alumni. But most of them are not high earners, and some of them can't work. And so I was meeting with the CEO of Scouting America this week, and he was telling me that so many people are Eagle Scouts, and they're just natural kind of supporters of that mission. We have natural support, but we don't have a lot of natural money. So what we do is we have to help people understand our mission and how much we need their support and what those dollars are used to do. And it's a more grueling kind of fundraising path. But I'm proud of where we've come. We started out, raising less than $1 million a year in our annual fund. And I think this year we'll celebrate about $8 million that we've raised. Our annual fund giving, which is just no special projects and things like that, that's what we really focus on. And so we're close to $4 million on just our annual, which is no projects, no special kind of things that we're raising money for, like a new building or anything like that.
All right, dedicated fundraising.
Yeah, and eliminate our great friends at the endowment. Not including them because that's always an exception. They've been a great partner of Damar over the years, but just our basic fundraising and our challenge with that, but also our success is growing our individual donors. Corporate donors have been great for us, and we've grown that as well, but we have really, really increased the number of individual donors that we've had. I think when back in 2012, we may have had 100 individual donors, and we have over 1,000 individual donors right now. Most of them are returning donors.
Wow.
So yeah, it's been, we have a great fundraising team. We have a foundation at Damar run by Sean Collinsworth, who's our president of our foundation. Just a wonderful, great guy, part of the executive team at Damar. And he is a great fundraiser and has a great team and tells the story like no one else can tell it. So I'm thankful for him. He's an answer to some of Damar's prayers for sure.
So when we're talking about revenue, what are the sources of revenue besides fundraising?
Yeah. Well, good and bad. The majority of our funding is still government-based. So every year we probably get almost $70 million paid to us from the state through the Department of Child Services. And that includes the juvenile courts. So that funding comes through the Department of Child Services. A large part of our funding is Medicaid. We have some private funding and some private commercial insurance funding. And then we have a few grants and different things that we're involved in. Of course, our grants never are part of our operations. They never cover our payroll or anything like that. Fundraising doesn't do that for us. But we're mainly government.
And these, like you mentioned Medicaid, are these reimbursements for services provided?
Yes, reimbursement.
Is that all reimbursement, or some of the money from the state more of just funding in general what you do?
Oh, no. I would like that. No, we provide a service and the state pays us for that.
Okay, so that is
for example, the Department of Child Services, they have children that they are the guardians of, and these are very disabled children. So we do the work on their behalf, and then they provide us a payment for that. So yes, that's all of it is service. We don't have any special funding or anything. And, not-for-profits, a lot of people have a misconception that we don't care about money. And you have to care about money if you're not-for-profit, because I think some people think that the money just shows up, and it does not. You have to have good thoughts and strategies about how you create revenue for the mission, to support the mission. And I think we've done a great job of that. As we've expanded, we've also had to make sure that we have an adequate margin that we can reinvest in our programs. So we've been lucky again with that, and tried to be smart with that.
Is it as easy as saying that the more services you provide, the more revenue you get?
Maybe. Not exactly. So, my friend Mike Braun came into the state this year, and he's a guy I know, and I try to support of what he's trying to do. I understand what he's trying to do, as are some of my friend at the Secretary of FSSA and the DCS director. But we, as you might expect, we have experienced significant funding cuts. So for the same service that we provide, we receive less money. And of course, the people that we employ, we have to pay them more. The food that we buy for the children that we serve, we have to pay. Everything goes up in our reimbursement. So along the way, you also have to prepare for that as an organization. You know the day is coming that you will be challenged with funding. And we're experiencing that right now with funding cuts in almost everything that we do. Every Medicaid, every state has been cut in somewhat. You may have heard we've changed the whole way ABA is provided in the state. There's significant limitations to that as it used to be. So we had to plan and prepare for that. We started preparing for that 12 years ago, and knew that a day would come that we still needed to be supportive of our mission. So every strategy that we have around new programs, maybe new revenue, we also have to make sure that we're preparing for the future and to make sure those are. Now, Damar's got itself in a good position where we now can do, and again, it's a not a risk-averse board of directors, and I'm certainly not risk-averse where we do programs that we know we're not going to make money on. One of the greatest ones that we've done lately is called the Damar Village, where we have low-cost, high-quality housing, if they so choose, adults with developmental disabilities to live in a somewhat public but protected environment designed for them. We don't make any money on that, but we've prepared ourselves where it's really strongly a mission that we knew was a big problem in our industry and for the folks that we serve. And so we committed to doing that. So being smart along the way, having smart people, being lucky, we've been able to do things like that where other organizations would not be able to do that.
Wow.
So we feel blessed.
How many people do you serve?
Very nice. If it's timely for me because we've just developed a new dashboard, an executive dashboard where I can see a lot of data that we have. And so every day I get the number. So today we are currently serving 1,834 people today right now.
Wow.
1,834. And we're doing that with about 1,400 employees. And that's all of our sites all around the state.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Every day.
So you are a child psychologist by training.
Yes.
So certainly at the beginning, you're doing a lot of one-on-one or maybe small groups. How big of a shift is it to be responsible for 1,400 people and then all the clients?
Yeah.
that you serve?
I had no business training. I had no accounting, finance training, and now I'm expected to know everything about the strategies and business development, fundraising, and financial management. Now, of course, the best way you do that as a CEO is you hire very smart people that make you look good. And that's what I have done. Most people that work for me are way smarter than I am. But yeah, it's been a wonderful. People ask me that question a lot. I was trained to be a child psychologist, and that's all I wanted to do. But over the years, I've just had a lot of great experience, a lot of great exposure, and failed a lot, but also have been successful a lot in some of the decisions that we've made. So yeah, I've grown to get those skills and understand things a lot more than I ever expected that I would.
I assume strategic thinkers are made, not born necessarily. How do you pick up on being able to think in those terms?
Well, one is knowing the industry really well and knowing the opportunities. I've been called before, and it's something I'm super interested in, is social entrepreneurship. Social programs that are needed, but also that can create the dollars that you need to reinvest in a very important mission. No, I don't think innovators are born. I think that they are around people and have experiences, and they're allowed to take risks, and they can make adjustments along the way, and have great people surrounding you that believe in your vision and what you're trying to accomplish and support you.
Is there anything from your studies in ministry that you still bring with you today?
Oh, yes. Faith is a big part. Not only faith in the Lord, but faith in myself and faith in our mission at Damar. I've told people that there's really three things that we rely on at Damar, and they are that we have, Damar's a lucky organization. We have just been lucky. We have very, very smart people that are committed to our mission. And that not only are we the answer to prayer to thousands of families, but we also get our prayers answered. And so faith, in my mind, is generalized not only to Lord and spirituality, but also to faith in the mission of Damar. It's things work out. And I think they work out because it's the people that we're so honored and privileged to serve. They deserve it. They deserve it way more than I do, and way more than most of the people that work at Damar. So I do think that there is a blessing that is over folks that have a strong belief and strong faith in our mission.
Okay, this is going to be the lightning round.
Okay. All right.
I'm going to do a few accomplishments over the last few years. Tell us about them just real quick. You've expanded real quick.
Yeah.
This will be funny. You expanded to East Chicago and Richmond, Indiana.
Yes.
Okay. Tell me real quick what was happening there.
Well, those were opportunities that came to us. They were opportunities with both of those were organizations that, because of a lot of different things that happen in not-for-profits, they were not able to continue.
Okay.
Yes.
So there were existing operations that you were able to come in and
existing facilities.
Oh, gotcha.
Existing facilities. For example, East Chicago. One day we were planning, getting up to our deal. The next day we had 60 brand new employees up there in East Chicago, and no revenue. And so we quickly had to get ourselves together there and quickly open programs, of course, very supported by the state of Indiana. Because of such waiting lists, they wanted to help us. And it is a thriving part of East Chicago right now. I can't tell you what a great part of East Chicago that organization is. So yes, we came in and were offered an opportunity, got a good deal. Things worked out great for us there. Same in Richmond, an organization there called Wernley family that had some struggles and ended up, their board said, we can't do this any longer. And I knew the CEO there, and he called me and said, hey, we need to do something here to figure something out. You want to come up here and look and see if this could be expansion of what Damar's doing after we're at East Chicago? And I said, great. And again, the deal that was made and the way that we were able to acquire that property was great. So those are mission. We are completely full at capacity in East Chicago. We're going to expand there in different methods. Our health services, our community-based services, and our charter schools will expand there. And in Richmond, we are just, beginning to do services there. So we've hired our first 20 employees. We have a great partnership that we are developing with Reed Hospital, the main employer there. And things could not be going better for us. Again, those three things happen to Damar every time.
You added 3 ABA autism clinics in the Indy area and one in East Chicago.
Yes.
You mentioned that acronym before, ABA. I'm sorry, I don't know what that is.
Applied Behavioral Analysis. Okay. That is the approach, the only evidence-based approach for children with autism to increase their skills and develop their independence. It's the only a scientific method by which you apply that's been accepted in the United States. Mm-hmm. So they're called ABA clinics. We have 7 of those now that are fully operating. So not only do we have independent clinics we have a Fall Creek Clinic, an Avon Clinic, what we call an Ameriplex Clinic, but we've also integrated ABA services into our intensive services, our hospital-based programs, our residential programs. And the next thing that we will be doing based on the ABA momentum of ABA in the state, which is stifled a little bit and limited more, we'll be more integrating those services into our schools, which we also plan to expand this year.
Yeah, and I was going to mention, you established a charter school.
Yes.
Public charter school.
Yes.
And where was that?
2013 was the push to how do we get folks access to Damar children without having to be in the child welfare system or the juvenile justice system. And the charter school was the way that we decided that we would do that. And it's been a wonderful success. The only not successful thing about our charter school is we have more kids that need to be in our charter school than we have enrolled because there's limitations there. But yeah, that is about, I would say, 3/4 of a mile from our main campus. So some of our children on our main campus go to that school, and then about half of the kids in that school are from the local community. When we first started that school, we had people driving from all over the state. Kids would drive in from Richmond every day to attend our school because they weren't able to attend anywhere else. We've had great successes with that where parents now are able to have jobs where they're not called every day to get their children, or they don't have to homeschool, or their kids aren't on homebound, which is not good for kids with developmental disabilities. So they've been, back working. Their relationships are stronger. They have friends and they're taxpayers when they weren't before. So a lot of great things have happened from our charter school. And this year is a major expansion year for, as you'll see in the next 2 years, a major charter school expansion for Damar.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. So when you became president and CEO in 2013, you succeeded longtime CEO Greg Johnson.
Yes.
Who retired then, I think, due to health issues.
Yes.
But you'd been preparing for the job for a while, just working alongside him as the agency's president and chief operating officer since 2010. Have you given any thought, has your board given any thought to succession planning for you?
Yeah, it's a requirement. Yeah. So all of my executives, including myself, we have to have written transition plans. My board chair always says, Jim, you could, I would hate it, but you could get hit by a bus. Then what happens to Damar? So actually, this is a critical time for Damar. I have clearly worked more years at Damar than I will. There is always a time and when someone will do a better job than me. Someone out there will do a better job than what I have done. And so that transition plan is absolutely fully involved right now. In fact, I would tell you that we have a great board chair. His name's Ralph Balber. He's the owner of Allo Properties.
Oh, for sure.
You know Ralph? He's a great guy. He is our chair, and he is working closely with me to make sure that my transition plan for the next several years is signed and penned before he is no longer the chair, and that will be this year. So plans have always been in place. The board very open to that. They know that the next CEO is very important. I've been the CEO for a long time. And the organization has only had 3 CEOs in the whole history of more than 60 years. So it's very important. So we are almost at the end of that, where not necessarily that we've picked who that would be, but the process is going to be firmly in place probably in the next month.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, we're that close to having that transition done.
I don't know if we were super clear about this. I feel like I'm telling stories in here, but you're 60 years.
Yes.
So, do you have a date when you sort of like to be able to transition out, or just for now is full speed ahead?
Yeah. So, of course, every day it's full speed ahead at Damar. But I would think that in the next 5 years or so, we will be well into my transition plan. So part of my plan is the board will be able to decide when I say push the button. So the plan is there, but they still get to push the button to start it.
Yeah.
And I've told them now, they have 3 years. And if they don't push the button in 3 years, the button gets pushed by me. And then there will be years of that will start.
Got it.
And that's about a 4-year plan.
Okay.
So it could be 7 years, could be. But we'll see how things go and how the board feels. I think if we're ready, the board could say, hey, Jim, we could do this. So again, I would work at Damar till the day I die because I love it so much, but I know that's not the right thing for Damar. I just know it's not. So it's going great, and I know it'll continue to go great, and I know Damar's future is going to be wonderful. I plan to always be a supporter of Damar, but I won't be at the helm. In 10 years, I won't be at the helm for sure.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
I wish you many more years of success.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, it's been very impressive. Well, thanks for coming in and explaining all this for me. I feel like I learned a lot.
Thank you. Thank you. It's been great talking to you.
My thanks again to Jim Dalton. And folks, before you get on with the rest of your week, there are a few stories in this week's edition of IBJ I want to draw to your attention. First up, the Indy Chamber is revving up a marketing campaign for the city that seeks to disperse the sense of Midwestern modesty that Indianapolis projects. Dave Lindquist details the plans for Speed City. Also in this week's issue, Daniel Bradley digs into the singular career of Tim Coleman, who grew up in Indianapolis and became Chief Technology Officer for Eli Lilly and Company. And Susan Orr reports that some employers are trying to tighten up their dress codes after letting them slide in the post-pandemic era. And again, you can find these stories in the latest print edition of IBJ or online at ibj.com. And I will say, it's quite a bit easier to access all the latest business news and all of IBJ's data on Central Indiana's business, community, and economy if you're a subscriber. And we're running a promotion right now that gives you complete access for $1 per week for 3 months, just to get a sense of how valuable and original our content is. Just go to ibj.com and click on the subscribe button. And thanks again for making time this week for the IBJ podcast. I'm Mason King. Hang in there, everybody. We'll be back again next week.
Get a behind-the-scenes look at Indiana's most influential leaders. On Business and Beyond, we go beyond titles and resumes to explore the personal stories, pivotal moments, and hard-won lessons that shape Hoosier leadership. Hear from the people driving Indiana forward in their own words. Subscribe and listen wherever you get your podcast or at ibjpodcasts.com.
The IBJ Media Podcast Network is the soundtrack of a growing state. Indiana is on the move, and you can hear it happening on the IBJ Media Podcast Network. We bring you the voices at the center of our economy, our courts, our companies, and our communities. Subscribe now and be part of the conversation that's building Indiana's future. Find all of our shows by searching IBJ Media in your podcast app or visit ibjpodcasts.com.